Hello everyone. I hope you guys are preparing real well. Now, one of the major concerns that we have when it comes to sections like quant and DILR is calculation. Sir, I'm not getting comfortable with calculation. बड़े बड़े लंबे लंबे calculation में बहुत दिक्कत होता है. या finding out squares, finding out cubes of numbers becomes a tedious task. Finding percentages becomes a tedious task. Calculation of averages becomes a tedious task. So the big answer for all of that is the calculator. But let's talk about the calculator. Let's answer some questions that we have with regards to the calculator that is available in CAT. My name is Amit Surana. I am your DILR expert. So let's quickly answer some questions about the calculator that we get in CAT. Number one, the first question, are we allowed to use a calculator? Of course we are. Yes, we are allowed to use a calculator in CAT. But remember, only in CAT. The calculator is allowed only in CAT. Other omits, other management entrance tests like XAT or SNAP or NMAT does not let you use. SNAP or NMAT or CMAT does not let you use a calculator. No. So a calculator is allowed only in CAT, not in any other exams. That means if you are still not comfortable with calculation, अगर अभी भी आपको calculation में दिक्कत हो रही है, then I would recommend that you start getting comfortable with doing calculation manually and mentally also. Yes, CAT gives you a calculator, but if you are planning on, if your plan Bs, if your backups are writing other management entrance tests, then you better get comfortable with calculation. Doing the calculation manually or mentally. Let's answer the second question. Can we bring our own calculator? What do you think? No. We are not allowed to use a calculator. We are not allowed to bring our own calculator. In fact, we are not allowed to bring anything of our own except for your mind, right? Your brain you can bring and your admit card. Apart from that, you're not supposed to bring anything in. मतलब आप खुद का calculator घर से नहीं carry कर सकते. Then what is going to happen? How are we supposed to use one on our phones? No, phones are not allowed. Can we bring in a scientific calculator? No, you cannot. Then how is it supposed to happen, or what kind of calculator will be given to us? Let's quickly talk about that. So the CAT calculator, what a lot of people think the CAT calculator looks like or does is what this beast does. Yes, this is a scientific calculator which literally does every bit of calculation for you, even solving quadratic equations, polynomial equations, even finding out logarithmic values, finding out trigonometric identities, everything this can do. Yes, this is our expectation. This is what a calculator that CAT gives us could probably do. But however, that's not the reality. The reality is the calculator that's given to us in CAT looks like this. Yes, this is this is exactly how your calculator in CAT is going to look like. यहाँ पे क्या होता है, you have your standard functions like addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, and some advanced level functions like finding out the reciprocal, finding out percentage and finding out the square root. Apart from that, the functions that are given to us are memory functions. Yes, so this is basically it, nothing beyond this. The calculator does exactly this and nothing beyond this. No other calculations that a scientific calculator can do. No. Plotting of graphs, no. Solving equations, no. Solving logarithmic values, finding out the values of logarithmic terms, no. Trigonometric terms, no. Right, so this is basically what it does. And if we also realize the kind of questions that CAT asks, those also do not ask us these values, right? They don't tell you what is the value of, they don't ask you directly what is the value of log 42 to the base 7.3. They don't do that, do they? They don't, right? So we need to understand one thing, that if they don't ask questions like this, then we know we should not expect the calculator also to do these functions, right? So yeah, this is basically it. Now a lot of people get disheartened by looking at the calculator that it does so little, but that's because a lot of people do not know what actually it could do, right? what a lot of people think is this is basically what's happening when it comes to the calculator that cat gives us. But that's not the truth. Yes, that is not the truth. This is not what happens, because the calculator can do a lot more than what you think. However, there are constraints. You doing calculation manually and mentally may have differences than you doing the calculation on the calculator. कई बार ऐसे सिचुएशंस हो जाते हैं कि कैलकुलेशन इतना कॉम्प्लेक्स दिखता है कि मैनुअली करने में बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग होती है, बेटर सोल्यूशन निकलता है दैन पुटिंग इट ऑन द कैलकुलेटर, राइट? So let's talk about the on-screen calculator that CAT gives us. It can perform only simple calculations. Like I told you, it can do addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. Apart from these, it can find out reciprocal. Next, it can find out percentage values. It can also go for square root. Apart from this, there are no other operations that can directly be performed using the calculator on CAT. Yes. Next, the calculator on CAT is only mouse operational. Only mouse operational. You are supposed to carry the mouse, I mean the cursor, and take it to each of the buttons. Each of the buttons you're supposed to take it and then click on it, right? You cannot use your keyboard ever in the exam. You're not supposed to, you're not allowed to use the keyboard anywhere in the exam. Please keep this in mind, okay? So let's have a look at how the calculator looks. This is the kind of button that you will see which activates the calculator. Usually ये DILR and quant के section में ही आता है. VRC में अगर आप calculator use कर रहे हो then you know you've gone wrong there, okay? So this will usually be on the top right corner or elsewhere. All you have to do is click on this. Let me quickly show you how this works, right? You click on this button and the calculator will pop out. Yes, and then you put up whatever operation you want to do on it. Let's say if I want to find out what is 2 plus 2 equals 4. Done with it, right? I know 2 plus 2 equals 4. Itna complex calculation kar sakta hai. Yeah, so this is what the calculator looks like and this is how you function it. Remember, at least I am using my finger because this is a touch board, but you are not allowed to do that either. You are supposed to use your mouse, move the cursor wherever you want to and click on it. Okay, so you have to be very careful about that. And this is also retractable, so when you don't need it, if it's eating up a lot of space on the screen, you can remove it, put it out. Okay. Next, the biggest disadvantage of this calculator is it could disrupt the flow. Now, I'm not saying that the calculator is good or bad, but at least the interface is. Why? I had to maximize it at least 7-8 times to make the calculator look legible. The calculator in CAT is way too small. Yes, that means the buttons are very close to each other. Buttons बहुत बाजू में रहते हैं. So sometimes instead of pressing a 2, you end up pressing a 1. Sometimes you feel like you've pressed a button, but then it does not accept it, right? Now, I'm not saying it's the fault of the calculator, but it's fault on our side that we feel we have clicked on it, but it does not, take that as a response. Okay? So it is small. It could cause mistakes, right? It could cause a lot of mistakes if you're not attentive enough, if you're not focusing on कि कौन से buttons पे आप click कर रहे हैं और क्या बराबर से आपने click किया है नहीं किया, right? Especially with zeros. Sometimes, let's say if you want to put in 1 million, you click on 1 and then you start tapping on zeros. You take your mouse and you start tapping on zeros. Instead of 6, you tap out 5 or 7 zeros and then you are stuck there, right? So be very, very super careful about it. And the major reason why it disrupts your flow is because right now what you're doing is, while you're looking, your eyes are on the screen, you look at the question, your eyes are on the paper, you have your pen and you're solving it, right? You have your rough sheet, आप वो question को solve कर रहे हैं, कुछ calculation आया. अब जब ये calculation आता है, unless and until you are ambidextrous, you are not going to use the other less functional hand, है ना? If you are a righty, आप left hand से तो करने वाले नहीं है. So you're gonna have to drop your pen, pick up the mouse, you're gonna have to go search for where the cursor is at that moment, bring it to the calculator, click on it, फिर calculator आएगा, उसमें अब आपको क्या calculation डालना है, you'll have to refer it back from the paper, Look at the calculation and do it. While you're doing it, sometimes if the calculation is very complex, you'll have to break it down into simpler terms. Do that. A lot of times we have multiple calculations within one expression. So the solution for each of that, you have to keep taking notes of it. That means you're changing your hand way too often. You're changing your hand way too often. Mouse, pen, mouse, pen, mouse, pen. And you're changing your vision also way too often. You're looking at the screen, you're looking at the paper, the screen, the paper. So if it is that bad, why should we even use it? Because we don't have a choice. Sometimes the calculations could be really difficult, that doing it manually will eat up so much of your time and your energy that it may not be as effective as using the calculator. So might as well go for the calculator. But remember, don't use the calculator for everything. Yeah. How to effectively use a calculator? That's our next part that we are going to talk about. Yes, we will be using the calculator, because let's say DI का कोई set है, बहुत ज़्यादा data है, you're gonna have to add all of them and find the average, or you're gonna supposed to find out the percentage change for multiple values. Now when that happens, doing that manually could be tiring, but at the same time you might end up making a mistake. Yes, the computer does not make a mistake unless and until there's a mistake between the transfer of the data. So when you input data, अगर वहां पर कोई गलती नहीं है तो calculator कोई गलती तो नहीं करेगा, right? So sometimes doing complex calculations, difficult calculations mentally or manually could be difficult, time taking and mistake prone. So to avoid that, we use the on-screen calculator, right? But how to use it effectively? Simplify the calculation before entering. This is very important. You need to simplify the calculation before entering. You cannot expect the calculator to do all the work. Yes, you cannot expect the calculator to do all the work. For example, if you are, if you are going to add, let's say 3 plus, I'm doing something very simple, okay, 3 plus 1 by 2. Now, if you end up typing like this in the calculator, you put 3, you put plus, and then you enter 1, and then when you do divide by 2, what it's going to end up doing is not use board mass there, right? It's not going to use board mass. It's not going to say 1 by 2 is the first function, because board mass mein division pehle aata hai and then addition and subtraction. So I divide first, 1 by 2 is 0.5 and then add 3. No, your calculator is not that smart. Yes, your calculator is your standard basic calculator. It's not going to do board mass. Instead, it's just going to do the calculation from left to right, as and when you enter, right? As and when you enter. So the actual answer for this is supposed to be say 3.5, but the answer that the calculator would give would be 2, because it does 3 plus 1, 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, this is the wrong answer, this is the right answer. So imagine for something this simple, if this is the kind of blunder, then you have to be very careful the way you input data there. Okay? So you have to be very careful about it. In fact, you are supposed to use board mass. You can't sit and teach the calculator to use board mass, but you can learn how to use board mass yourself, right? Learn using board mass, make it simple for yourself so that it does not become that big of a task while entering the data. So you simplify it on paper. How you are supposed to enter this is, you, instead of doing 3 plus 1 divided by 2, what you do is you first look at the division part. So you do 1 by 2 first, you get 0.5, and then you add 3 to it. This will fetch you 3.5. This will not make the mistake of calling it 2. Okay? Make sense? Yes. तो इसके लिए हमें बोर्ड मास सीखना होगा. हमें बोर्ड मास क्या होता है पता होना चाहिए. What is board mass, folks? If you guys can quickly bring up the abbreviation, the expanded form of board mass. BODMAS. B stands for brackets of. B stands for brackets. That means if there is any expression within brackets, you first deal with them. O stands for order. Order means power. Then comes division. Then comes multiplication. Further we have addition. And then we have subtraction, right? So this is something that we know, but the problem here is we do not know the actual use of it. Yes, so what it says is, for a given expression, you first deal with the brackets. Any operation that's within the brackets, you first deal with them. Then you deal with order, that is your power. Yes, exponent could be root, could be anything, so that you first figure out. Okay, next, what a lot of people think is, board mass brings D before M, that basically means first priority is to division and then to multiplication. No, first priority is equally to both. Division and multiplication have equal priority. Okay, you need to understand that. अगर कहीं पर भी डिवीजन है और मल्टीप्लिकेशन है तो वो दोनों साइमल्टेनियसली चलेगा. मतलब द आइडिया इज, बोर्ड मास, द मेजर रूल इज टू गो फ्रॉम लेफ्ट टू राइट, लेफ्ट टू राइट ऑफ द गिवन कैलकुलेशन और द एक्सप्रेशन. लेफ्ट से राइट जाना है, तो अगर लेफ्ट से राइट जाते वक्त डिवीजन पहले आता है तो डिवीजन करोगे, मल्टीप्लिकेशन पहले आता है तो मल्टीप्लिकेशन पहले करोगे. या आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जांपल फॉर दिस. Same way with addition, subtraction. A lot of people think addition will be done first and then subtraction. No. Addition, subtraction have the same priority. Yes, so the idea is brackets will have the first priority. The second priority will be given to order, which is your power. The third priority will be given to division and multiplication together. And the last priority will be given to addition and subtraction together. Yes. सेम वे इसी का एनआरआई कजिन है पेमदास. यस, वी हैव PEMDAS, प्रेमदास नहीं है, पेमदास, which is one and the same thing, right? Which is one and the same thing. P is for parenthesis, which is basically brackets. E is for exponents, which is nothing but power, which is the same thing as order. And then you have multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So it's not like a sir हमारे में तो division पहले आता है उसके बाद multiplication, but अंग्रेजों के लिए पहले multiplication आ रहा है फिर division. Why this discrimination? क्या ये racism है? जी नहीं. This has nothing to do with region or race. This has the basic misunderstanding that we have के same thing. See, first priority to parenthesis, second priority to exponents, the third priority will be given to both multiplication and division equally, and the fourth priority will be given to addition and subtraction equally. Okay, so we need to know this, right? So whenever you end up putting a very complex calculation in your CAD calculator, it's not going to give you the answer at all, right? It will not be kind enough to also tell you कि ये math error है. It won't. Yes, so you have to be very careful. चलो, moving on. Every time you put up one part of the calculation, make this a habit of writing down the result frequently. जो भी आपका outcome आता है, let's say three different parts है आपका एक expression में, तो एक का अगर आप कर देते हो तो उसका आंसर लिख लो फटाफट, फिर दूसरे का करते हो उसका आंसर लिख लो फटाफट, एंड देन तीसरे का करते हो उसका आंसर लिख लो फटाफट. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग यू एन एग्जांपल. आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू शो यू हाउ टू सॉल्व इट और गिव द आंसर फॉर इट, बट मैं एक रैंडम एग्जांपल दे रहा हूं. लेट्स से अगर हमें करना है कि 44 टू द पावर 3 प्लस 22 स्क्वायर रूट ऑफ 22 इनटू से 14/8. ठीक है, ऐसा अगर हमें कुछ करना है तो व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू डू इज वी आर गोइंग टू फर्स्ट फाइंड आउट इंडिविजुअल वैल्यूज, कीप इट एंड देन गो फॉर इट, है ना. तब क्या करोगे, पहले यू विल फाइंड आउट 44 क्यूब. हाउ कैन यू फाइंड आउट 44 क्यूब इन द कैलकुलेटर? सर कैलकुलेटर में तो क्यूब का ऑप्शन नहीं है. नहीं, 44 इंटू 44 यू गो स्टोन एज ऑन दिस. यस, आप इस पे स्टोन एज जाओगे. यू डू द स्टैंडर्ड. क्यूब का मतलब क्या है? द सेम नंबर मल्टीप्लाइड 3 टाइम्स. फोर्थ पावर का मतलब क्या है? द सेम नंबर मल्टीप्लाइड 4 टाइम्स, राइट. So this is 85,184. You write that down. 85,184 plus. Next you have the square root of 22. So you have 22 ka square root, which is 4.69. If I were to approximate this, I'm going to write this as 4.69 or 4.7. Give me 1 second. We'll write this as 4.7, right? Yeah, we'll write this as 4.7. तो अगर मैं इसको 4.7 लिख रहा हूं, इसको अगर मैं 4.7 लिख रहा हूं फॉर एग्जांपल, राइट, 4.7 into 14 by 8. If I were to directly find out what 14 divided by 8 is, I'll write down 1.75. Now, if you look at this, this is how you use board mass or PEMDAS, okay? What you do here is you go from left to right. You go from left to right. When you go from left to right, now you need to prioritize. अब आप multiplication, division पहले करोगे, फिर addition, subtraction. तो यहाँ पे बीच में addition है, मतलब we will be dealing with this part first, क्योंकि यहाँ पे multiplication है. So we have 1.75 into 4.69. We get 8.2075. This 8.2075 needs to be added with this. So plus 851.84. This gives us the answer of 851.92.2. 851.92.2075 or whatever. Yes. So I hope you are understanding the purpose behind, showing you this. Cool. So complex calculations, you will have to make it simple so that you could feed it into the calculator. Cool. Chalo, moving on. Do not be in a hurry, which is very, very important. What a lot of people do is, since calculator is going to do the most of the calculation and I'm not supposed to be worried about it, they start, reducing time there, right? So the operation is way too fast. जब आप mouse को बहुत ज़्यादा तेज चलाते हैं, sometimes it becomes unresponsive. Sometimes the response is not recorded properly. Sometimes you misclick something. Sometimes the cursor is not where it's supposed to be. So a lot of these cases happen. And these happen when you are in a hurry. The anxiety, the adrenaline that you have, कि मेरे को पेपर जल्दी खत्म करना है, सारे क्वेश्चंस करने, ओ माय गॉड 10 और क्वेश्चंस बाकी है, बट मेरे पास 5-6 मिनट है. That is time management issues that you cannot bring it on the calculator. Calculator की इसमें कोई गलती नहीं है, ठीक है? The calculator is trying to do the best he can. So do not be in a hurry, especially when you're using the calculator, because you do not have a keyboard जहाँ पे आप ठक 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 करके आप कर सकते हो. No, you're gonna have a mouse, so you're gonna have to use it delicately and very carefully. And there's also this one function called memory function. Yes, I just showed you, है ना, memory function. What is memory function and how to use it? Okay, let's have a quick look at it. So the same thing that we did right now, if I were to do it in, say, not too many steps, I don't want to write down all of these values because that's the same problem, right? मैं बार बार क्या कर रहा हूँ? I am taking out the pen, changing it to mouse, then pen, then mouse, then pen. I don't want to do that. So instead what I do is I use something called the memory function. So here is the memory function, right? We have memory save, we have memory minus, we have memory plus, we have memory recall, and we have memory clear. Yes, I'm going to write this down for y'all. Memory save. This adds to the new memory, okay? Memory में कुछ नया save करता है ये. Then you have memory minus. It's going to subtract that value from memory. Subtract from memory. Next you have memory plus, that's going to add to the memory. Then you have memory R, which is memory recall. Whatever you saved in memory, it's going to get recalled. And then you have memory clear, which is going to erase everything from the memory. Okay, here you need to understand कि आप बहुत ज़्यादा variable save नहीं कर सकते. There's only one value that you can save in the memory function, right? So how are you supposed to use it? मैंने पहले I applied board mass and I split this, right? So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to first deal with this part. So what was I saying? Yeah. So I'm supposed to do what first? I'm supposed to first deal with the root. Yes. Then the cube. So I'm not going to do this right now. 44 cube मैं बाद में भी कर लूँगा, right? So I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to deal with this 22 का square root first. and then multiply it with 14 and divide it by 8, right? So how am I supposed to do this? I have 22 ka square root, I have the value here. This gets multiplied by 14 and then gets divided by 8. I have this value now. Now what happens to this value? I save it in memory. I put it in memory. Now this value is already registered in the empty slot that I have in my calculator. Okay. I press on clear. The existing entry is cleared now. Now what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to calculate 44 cube. So 44 cube is basically 44 square into 44, right? So I have 85,185. Now what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to add this value to this one. But where is this value? This value is in my memory. So I'm going to recall the memory. See, I'm going to bring back memories. So when I equate it, I have 85,192.2082. Yes, ये 2075 and 2082 का difference I hope you understand, right? Because we approximated here. ठीक है? चलो, perfect. So this is how you're supposed to use memory function. But the major thing that a lot of people forget when they use memory function is कि memory में जब आप कुछ save करते हो, if that is no longer useful, please learn to clear it immediately. ये question हो गया, मैं अब next question में जा रहा हूँ. I need to remember to clear memory. Otherwise क्या होगा, हम कुछ calculate कर रहे हैं और गलती से अगर हम memory recall कर देते तो वही value आएगा. Yes, so I need to clear memory. Please keep that in mind. ठीक है? What memory plus and memory minus does is जो भी already existing value है memory में. For example, let's say we have same square root of 22 already है memory में. Okay, I'm going to save it in memory. Now I need to add to square root of 22. Let's say I need to add square root of 44. Okay, so 44 का square root निकाला, ये है memory में already 22 का square root है. तो now when I press m plus, it's going to add it to the memory already. So अब जब मैं recall करूँ, oh sorry, I cleared memory, my bad. So let's do that again. 22 का square root is this. I'm going to save it to memory, clear it. 44 का square root is this. I'm going to add it to the memory and clear my entry. If I recall memory, see, it is the sum of square root of 22 and square root of 44. I hope that's clear, right? Yeah, superb. So with this, you've understood what memory functions are and how they work. Unless and until you are comfortable with these, you cannot use them in real life, especially during an exam, during a test, when it's, high pressure environment. It becomes difficult for you all to use. So I thought, why not let's do a couple of quick examples on how to use the calculator, right? So they're asking us to find the value of 7 root 2 plus 5 root 3. This is where your memory function can do magic. Remember to clear the memory, okay? So what do I have? I have 7 times root 2. Now root 2 and root 3 values we know, approximated values we know. But then sometimes what happens is doing the calculation becomes way too, tense. So ऐसे में आप manual calculation ना ही करें तो better है, calculator है, get it over with that, right? So what do we do? First we find out the value of 7 root 2. Yes, so what do we do? First you find out the value of root 2. You multiply this with 7. This is the value of 7 root 2. What do? You save it in memory. Get it erased from the entry. Memory में already है, entry से हटा दिया. Next we need to find out 5 root 3. तो पहले root 3 निकालेंगे. Multiply this with 5. We get 8.66. Since we have to add both of these, what do? I simply just add it in memory. This thing is added in memory. I clear the entry. I recall the memory. I have 18.559 as my answer. Yes. See how easy this becomes. Yes. मेमोरी में ये ऐसे जो वैल्यूज है जो बार बार आते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर कोई स्पेसिफिक वेरिएबल है, लेट्स से ये x का वेरिएबल है, ये x का वैल्यू जो है वो बहुत जगहों पे यूज हो रहा है, 1 पे, 2 पे, 3 पे, 4 पे. Yes, and you can't sit and calculate the value of x every time. Yeah, let's say x is something as complex as 1 plus root 5 divided by 6 square, something like this. ठीक है, I'm just spitballing, जो भी मुंह में आ रहा है मैं वो लिखे जा रहा हूँ. ठीक है, but let's say Now every time you have to use the value of x, let's say you first have to do x square in some place, then you have to do say 4 by x in some place, then you have to do square root of x in some place. This especially works well जब आपके you have questions जहां पे आप वैल्यू अस्यूम करके कर रहे हो, एल्जेब्रा क्वेश्चन जहां पे आप वैल्यू अस्यूम करके कर रहे हो, वहां पे आप वेरिएबल का वैल्यू पहले ही सेव करके रख लो एंड देन फट 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 करके जस्ट यूज इट वेर एवर इट इज, राइट? x परसेंटेज ऑफ 12 वट एवर, रैंडम वैल्यूज बोल रहा हूं मैं, ठीक है? तो आप पहले ही x का वैल्यू निकाल के रख लो, x स्क्वायर करना है, उसी वैल्यू को 2 बार रिकॉल करो, हो जाएगा। 4 बाई एक्स करना है, कैसे करोगे 4 बाई एक्स? हाउ डू यू डू 4 बाई एक्स? यू यूज द रेसिप्रोकल फंक्शन। यस, तो पहले x की वैल्यू निकालते हैं। व्हाट इज इट? 1 प्लस रूट 5 डिवाइडेड बाई 6 स्क्वायर। 6 स्क्वायर की वैल्यू मेरे को पता है क्या है, बट अगर लेट्स से नहीं पता, ये भी अगर कोई कॉम्प्लेक्स नंबर है, से 1 कैलकुलेटर फिर गया सॉरी ये मेरा जा रहा है, आप लोगों का नहीं जाएगा, ठीक है? डोंट वरी अबाउट इट। ये मेरे स्क्रीन से जा रहा है, आपके स्क्रीन से नहीं जाएगा, ठीक है? राइट, गेटिंग बैक टू वेयर वी वेर। हाँ, सो पहले अगर ये ऐसे ऐसे कोई कॉम्प्लेक्स टर्म होता है 1.26 स्क्वायर, तो हम क्या करेंगे, पहले ही ढूंढ के रख लेंगे 1.26 स्क्वायर क्या है। तो वी हैव, या फिर पहले न्यूमरेटर ढूंढ लो, save it in memory and then divide it, either which ways, है ना? So 1.26 square is basically dividing it by 1.26 twice, जैसे भी। So I do 1.26 into 1.26. Now if you notice, मैं ये square वाला function I am not using because your CAT calculator may not have it, ठीक है? So 1.26 into 1.26 is 1.5876. I'm gonna save it in memory, clear the entry. Next I have to find out root 5. So I find out root 5, I add 1 to it, I get this value. I'm gonna have to divide it by some value. Divided by what? By whatever is in my memory, 1.5876. I get this. Now what I'm going to do, this is my new value, this is my final value of x, right? This is what I'm gonna save it in memory now. So अब मेरे memory में क्या value है? 2.038 something. Yes. अब बस दैट्स इट। नाउ एक्स स्क्वायर ढूंढना है, यू गो मेमोरी रिकॉल इनटू मेमोरी रिकॉल इक्वल टू, यू हैव द वैल्यू 4.15। नेक्स्ट अगर आपको 4 डिवाइडेड बाय एक्स करना है, तो आप क्या करोगे, यू ईदर डू 4 डिवाइडेड बाय मेमोरी रिकॉल, यू हैव इट, और व्हाट यू डू मेमोरी को रिकॉल करो, रेसिप्रोकल का ऑप्शन रहता है, 1 बाई एक्स इज रेसिप्रोकल, रेसिप्रोकल किया, यू गेट दिस, you multiply it by 4, you have your value 1.96, either which ways, right? Next you have square root, क्या करोगे, same thing, you recall the memory, you find out the root, you have it. Yes. Next x percentage of 12, तो x percentage of 12 जिनको पता है, percentage is by 100 into 12, so by 100 करना है करो, या percentage function है यूज करना है करो, that's up to you. I normally don't use the percentage function because it sometimes can mislead you. So what I normally do is, memory को recall किया, by 100, this is x percentage of 12, we have it. Works? Yes. So memory function is a very powerful function. A lot of people use it, but if you do not know how to use it and you're going to experiment that during the test, up to bad choice. Yes. So please keep that in mind. Let's try one more example to see if we are where we are supposed to be. This is where you're supposed to use board mass. Yes, यहाँ पे आपको board mass use करना है। तो आप अगर आप देख रहे हो, ये पूछ रहे हैं what is the value of a if 7a by 2 is this, 7a by 2 is this। तो पहले क्या दिख रहा है आपको, board mass b brackets, this entire thing is in brackets, ये पूरा ब्रैकेट में है, तो इसको भी तो ब्रेक करना है। कैसे ब्रेक करेंगे? board mass के अकॉर्डिंगली multiplication comes before, multiplication and division comes before addition and subtraction। तो क्या हो रहा है, you have multiplication here, you have multiplication here, यहाँ पे subtraction है, यहाँ पे addition है, so forget about that। yes, पहले multiplication करेंगे। so what do we do, I'm going to use the memory function, so I'm going to clear it before using। अगर मैं use करने के बाद clear करना भूल जाता हूँ, तो I'm going to do it beforehand, पहले ही clear कर लूंगा इसे। So I have 32 into 22, 33 into 22, that is 726. I'm saving it my memory, clearing it. Then I have 14 into 12. These are actually basic simple values, but still 14 into 12 is 168. What am I going to do now? ये वैल्यू और ये वैल्यू is getting added. ये पॉजिटिव में है and then -5. So I'm gonna add this with the memory. I get this. I subtract 5 from this. I get 889. Now this becomes my new memory value. 889. Yes. उसके बाद 14,000 से मेरे को subtract करना है. तो 14,000 minus memory recall gives me 13,111. Now remember 13,111 is what? 7a by 2. 13,111. Now I don't even have to write this down क्योंकि अब मेरे पास ये है, मेरे सामने ये है. This becomes my new memory value. If I need to find out the value of a, I'm going to have to do what? Divide it by 7 and multiply it with 2, right? So I recall memory, I divide it by 7, I am going to multiply it with 2. I end up getting 3,746 being the value of a. So a is 3,746. So you can reduce the number of times you are, writing, है ना? जितनी बार आप लिख रहे हैं स्क्रीन पे उसको आप reduce कर सकते हैं if you know how to use the calculator smartly. So I hope this session was helpful for you all. I hope you understood a lot of things with the help of the calculator, how a calculator is supposed to be used, when is it supposed to be used, what are the things that you need to do before using it. So we'll do a quick recap of the session. Use calculator only for difficult calculations. For simple ones, use mental or manual calculation wherever possible. Save time, save energy, save the hassle of माउस उठाओ, कर्सर ढूंढो, कैलकुलेटर निकालो, बटन दबाओ, गलती करो, फिर गाली दो एक दो, फिर सुधारो उसे, रिमूव करो, वापस से करो. माइट एज वेल यूज मेंटल कैलकुलेशन और मैनुअल कैलकुलेशन वेर एवर देयर इज सिंपल वंस. कहीं पर भी कॉम्प्लेक्स हो रहा है, डेसिमल आ रहा है, फ्रैक्शंस गंदे वाले हो रहे हैं, रूट्स निकालने हैं, इम्परफेक्ट स्क्वायर के रूट्स निकालने, तब आप यू कैन ऑलवेज गो फॉर द कैलकुलेटर. या कहीं पर भी आपको डर लग रहा है, डाउट आ रहा है, वेन एवर इन डाउट यूज द कैलकुलेटर. Second one, अच्छा, get comfortable with doing simple calculations mentally or manually. When I say simple, I mean simple ones. I am not talking about the complex ones. Sir, 3 random digits into 3 random digits. मैं ऐसे खड़ा हो गया सर, mental abacus चला रहा हूं मैं दिमाग में. That's not what I'm expecting you to do. That's not what CAT expects you to do either. इसीलिए तो कैलकुलेटर देते कि भाई कॉम्प्लेक्स कैलकुलेशन कर लो. Yes. सो सिंपल वाले जो कैलकुलेशंस हैं वो मैनुअली करो, मेंटली करो, दैट विल सेव यू अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, अगर आपको ये सीखना है कि सर कैलकुलेटर से कैसे बेटर है, कैलकुलेटर कहां पे मिलेगा, हाउ डू वी गेट यूज्ड टू द इंटरफेस ऑफ द कैलकुलेटर, यू हैव टू प्रैक्टिस विद द कैलकुलेटर ऑन अ कंप्यूटर. इफ यू हैव अ विंडोज पीसी, तो उसमें जो डिफॉल्ट कैलकुलेटर आपका होता है, दिस इज हाउ इट लुक्स. इसमें यू हैव स्टैंडर्ड एंड यू हैव साइंटिफिक एंड ग्राफिंग एंड ऑल दैट, बट आप साइंटिफिक या ग्राफिंग वगैरह नहीं यूज कर सकते बिकॉज दैट्स नॉट व्हाट वी गेट इन कैट. ठीक है. दिस इज ऑल यू गेट इन कैट. यस. सो यूज दिस कैलकुलेटर. ये आपका वो स्टैंडर्ड वाला कैलकुलेटर है जो विंडोज में मिलता है. ठीक है. एंड व्हेन यू डू इट, वहां पर भी आलस खा के माउस से मत करो. यहां पे आलस खाओगे, वहां पे आप मार्क्स खा लोगे. यस. सो डोंट डू दैट. Use the mouse, don't use the keyboard even when you are practicing. जब भी आप प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं, see if you can sit with a PC, a laptop or a desktop, जो भी है उसके साथ बैठो and use a mouse. Don't use touch. Don't use your your touch pad जो है, जो लैपटॉप्स में होता है touch pad. Don't use that. Don't use keyboard. Yes. एंड कई बार क्या होता है कि कैलकुलेशंस थोड़ा सा जब कॉम्प्लेक्स लगता है, डिफिकल्ट लगता है, मैं भी करता हूँ, स्पेशली विद डीआई में ये करता हूँ कि मैं फटाफट से एक्सेल खोल लेता हूँ. यस, मैं फटाफट से एक्सेल खोल लेता हूँ क्योंकि डिफरेंस निकालने सबके हो जाएंगे. एक फॉर्मूला से सम करना है, हो जाएगा, एवरेज हो जाएगा, परसेंटेज ढूंढना हो जाएगा, प्रॉफिट निकालना हो जाए, सब हो जाता है. बट दिस विल मेक यू लेजी एंड दिस विल कॉज अ वेरी बिग प्रॉब्लम व्हेन यू गो टू द एग्जाम हॉल, राइट. तो एक्सेल में या कीबोर्ड में या टच पैड में या टच स्क्रीन वाले से मत करो. ठीक है. दैट बेसिकली मीन्स अपने फोन से मत यूज करो. डू नॉट यूज अ साइंटिफिक कैलकुलेटर बिकॉज यू विल नॉट बी प्रोवाइडेड विथ वन. द मोमेंट यू हैव अ साइंटिफिक कैलकुलेटर इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू, यू विल स्टॉप यूजिंग बेसिक ऑपरेशंस है ना. स्क्वायर करना है तो डायरेक्ट स्क्वायर का बटन है. मैं क्यों इंटू सेम एक्स इंटू एक्स क्यों करूँ, एक्स स्क्वायर प्रेजेंट है, राइट. सो प्लीज बी केयरफुल अबाउट इट. डू नॉट यूज साइंटिफिक कैलकुलेटर्स, डू नॉट यूज कैलकुलेटर्स ऑन फोन्स, डोंट डू दैट. ठीक है. I hope this session was fruitful. I hope you got to learn something with this session. I hope you guys start using the calculator the way it is supposed to be used. All the very best, guys. Cheers.